cops, mayors, etc. LEAP, my Law Enforcement Against group, and the Drug Truth Network are calling for an end to this now 94-year-old progress problem. We want to tax, regulate, and actually control the distribution of these drugs for adults. We'll still have plenty of room in prison. In fact, we'll have lots of room in prison to hold anyone who would dare sell drugs to our children. I'm here to open this dialogue. And again, pick up the phone, give us a call. I want to hear your concerns. I spend my life trying to find anyone within government, within the clergy, any politician who would step forward and defend this policy of drug prohibition. Now that request goes out to the drug czar, it goes down through the governor's office, it goes down to all the various law enforcement officials that like this drug war because it is what makes them meet their mortgage payment. And what we have to do is stop and take a look at this. My number one question, should I ever get a chance to talk to the drug czar, would be, can you name the number one success of the drug war? And I think after 100 years there ought to be something they can point to, but there is nothing. It has failed in every aspect. The drug warriors, those who thrive on eternal drug war, as I said, refuse to debate me. And what I want to point out is each year here in America, we arrest 1.8 million nonviolent U.S. citizens. And this comes with the destruction of these 1.8 million individuals' families, lives, their fortunes, and their futures. Because once you have that conviction, what happens is you have to serve your time, then you come out. You're barred from getting a license for many professional organizations. You're barred from getting an education. You can't get credit. You can't get housing. And you can't get a job. So the only people waiting in the wings, so to speak, is the black market in drugs, waiting to entice them to come back, waiting to bring them back into the fold, because it's the only job that's available many times for these people who have a drug conviction. So what we have to do is stop. Think about what are we trying to do with this drug war. 100 years, yet drugs are cheaper, purer, more freely available to our children than ever before. How is that a success? And why do we continue doing the same thing forever? It was Albert Einstein who told us that doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, is the very definition of insanity. So I'm asking you to please pick up the phone, give us a call, 713. No, I don't have it. There it is, 713-807-1794. I'd really like to talk with you. You know, who's responsible for this? We have a situation where this United States Office of National Drug Control Policy, the ONDCP, they have this guy appointed to the head of that. He's called the drug czar, the director of the ONDCP. And they have some 780 outlets, if you will. Urine testers and treatment centers and, you know, police associations. But all of these people that stand in support of the ONDCP and their efforts. And who do the major press call upon when they're looking for an opinion? They go to these people that run the treatment centers and the urine testing, the prosecutor and the police chief. All of these people who benefit from the continuance of this policy. You know, cops and doctors and scientists and all the other experts, those in the ancillary positions of authority, the working man of the drug war, make sure their mortgage payments are met as well and their retirement assured by joining in the feast of the drug war. Their meat is spewing tales of dread and woe, knowing full well their lies will pay the bills, and the agony that ensues from their intervention will be disguised to support their contentions regarding the harms of drugs. I've tried so many times to find one drug warrior brave enough to do this. They just can't do this. So what I would submit is this drug war will be over when we cease our infantile acceptance of the pronouncements of these false saviors whose true desire is to forever govern our minds, our bodies, and our very lives. When push comes to shove, these drug warriors dare not take the battlefield. There's absolutely nothing to fear except your own acceptance of eternal defeat, because that's the real bread and butter of these drug warriors. Let's end drug prohibition. Here's an article from Mr. Ethan Nadelman. He runs the Drug Policy Alliance. It's perhaps the world's largest drug reform organization. He talks about the 75th anniversary of 1933. It was the repeal of the alcohol prohibition, the Volstead Act, and how it came to represent a change in American society. We got rid of the Al Capones, the gangsters, the Shelton gang, all of those guys, just by legalizing alcohol once again. Back then, they had children running the buckets of beer in the city streets because, just like now, the children don't face the severe punishment that the adults do. And that's what they're doing now with drugs, is enticing your 14-year-old to go out there and haul drugs across the street or sling it on the street corner because they get the equivalent slap on the wrist, whereas adults might get 5, 10, or even 20 years for doing the same thing. So I'm asking you now, pick up the phone. I want to hear from you. Give us a call, 713-807-1794. I'd love to talk with you. You know, I debated a gentleman here in town about 2 years ago now. His name is Stan First. He heads up the high-intensity drug trafficking area for Houston. And really what that is just a pseudonym for a DEA gang, because that's what these cops pretty much work as gangs. They catch people with a little bit of drugs, and then they frighten them and force them to reveal their friend's name, force them to become snitches, and to do their bidding. And I see great parallels with the Inquisition of 500 years ago. And what we have to do is stop and think about, how will we win this drug war? How would we define success? No one ever does drugs again. We no longer arrest anybody. Little Johnny doesn't have access to a bag of marijuana. Is that possible? Is it worth spending $69 billion a year in the effort forever? I think not. We all want to stop funding Osama bin Laden, Al-Qaeda, and the Taliban with monies derived from growing flowers on the mountainside, don't we? But they're currently able to do that, and they buy better weapons with which to kill our fine soldiers. We all want to stop the drug trade that sends billions of dollars to dangerous cartels in Central and South America. We want to eliminate the reason for the violent gangs that exist and prowl our neighborhoods. And we want to get rid of the street corner vendors who entice our children with these deadly concoctions that are 20, 30, 40% meth or heroin or cocaine, and the rest is some kind of household product, laxatives, or even more dangerous products. After 90-plus years of failure, the U.S. currently, we are the world's leading jailer, but we currently lead the world in the use of these drugs. When binge drinking and prescription pill abuse is rampant, many times in order to foil urine tests, when preventable death, disease, crime, and addiction are just as rampant, but they're used as justification for more of the same hopeless policy, we have but to examine the evidence to realize we're 180 degrees off track. Those in positions of power who embrace the policy of eternal drug prohibition are the best friends the drug lords could ever hope for. Their work enriches Al-Qaeda and ensures continual funding for these violent gangs. Drug war is a killer. It is a destroyer of nations and basic human rights. Drug abuse is not a criminal matter. It is a medical problem. We lost the drug war on the day it began. Let us stop the lies. Let us embrace the truth. Let us do it for the children. You know, in my work, I get a chance to go to various conferences and attend meetings in D.C. and elsewhere. And I brought in a couple of pieces of tape today. 3 years ago, I went to Bolivia with a group called Witness for Peace. And we spent several days. We talked to the justice minister, the Christian minister. We toured a prison in Cochabamba that was built for about 48 people that held over 600 men, women, and children. People living underneath a rusted-out roof, people sleeping on the stairwells, people dividing their prison cells in half where it had a 4-foot ceiling, and they built another cell on top of that. People trying to find any way they could. And most of these people were there for having steel wool